Howdy hey, how is everybody doing, and welcome back to Disney Daily. In today's video, we are going to break down episode 5 of Monsters at Work called The Cover-Up, which was a really entertaining episode overall. This one focuses more on the dynamic between Duncan and Tyler, which was something I was really excited to see, mostly because, believe it or not, Duncan is one of my favorite new monsters from the series. Anyways, enough chit-chat, let's get into the breakdown, shall we? The episode starts off with Fritz walking towards a mysterious blue door with a window in it. As Fritz knocks on the door, our favorite goofball Needleman answers and asks him for a password in order to enter. Fritz then tells him he has no idea what the password is. Just then, Smitty comes to the door and pokes his eyes through where the mail slot would be. Smitty begins to spell out the password to Fritz. Fritz then repeats the password and the two monsters say in unison, "Welcome, friend," and open the door. As Fritz makes his way in, Needleman and Smitty begin to pitch their side business that they seem to be running undetected, called Needleman and Smitty's Vacation Door Emporium. Needleman tells Fritz that each door has been put back together by them and will take him to an isolated human-free destination, which Fritz seems to be in desperate need of, and asks the pair more about the doors and where they lead to. Smitty then reveals the first door, which is from an abandoned cruise ship in the Arctic Circle. The next door they pitch is covered with steel bars, and Needleman tells Fritz that this door leads to Transylvania, which is known for blood-sucking vampires and deluxe amenities in a castle. The dim-witted duo then shows Fritz another door which leads to a decaying cabin in the woods. Fritz, not impressed, asks what else do you guys have? So the monsters show him another door which leads to the Caribbean beach resort. Fritz begins to jump up and down and yells, "Beach vacation? Yes, 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 that's the one." He then proceeds to ask the two if using shredded doors is against company policy, to which Needleman and Smitty reply smoothly, "Oh, we don't say against company policy, we just say debit or credit." The next scene then cuts to the Mifter break room where we see the monsters spinning a giant wheel that will pick their temporary supervisor since Fritz will be going on vacation. Everyone is excited except for Tyler, who just sits in the room reading a book. The camera then pans to Duncan, who is confident that the wheel will choose him, as he whispers to his pet Roto, "Today is my lucky day." Duncan then randomly lashes out at Tyler and accuses him of wanting the position. Tyler then reassures Duncan once again that he has no interest in Fritz's job, but Duncan doesn't believe him. Just then the wheel stops on Val, who is beyond excited and reveals some fun ideas that she has in store for the Mifters. Duncan, as you can imagine, is crushed, and he tells the team that he will just throw away his dreams permanently, which causes Tyler to feel bad for him, and he echoes those same thoughts to Val and Fritz. We then overhear Duncan on the phone with his mom telling her that he learned today that dreams can't come true. In all honesty, this is why I love Duncan. He is such a ham, and at the end of the day, he has no real malicious intentions. After listening to Duncan talk to his mom, Val makes a sweet gesture and turns the wheel to Duncan's name, and Fritz tells Duncan he made a mistake and that he is the temporary supervisor according to the wheel. Duncan is beyond excited and tells Fritz he will do his best in his position. We then cut to Fritz leaving the break room dressed for his vacation. He tells the team goodbye and that he expects them to all get along. When Fritz finally leaves, Duncan turns to his fellow employees and tells them that they must do whatever he says. It is safe to say that Duncan goes on a little bit of a power trip and forces Tyler to do a lot of unnecessary work. He first has Tyler roll out a red carpet upon his entrance to the break room and announce him formally with confetti. Then he makes Tyler his own personal chauffeur. And if all of that wasn't enough, Tyler then has to clean Roto's pet cage with a toothbrush. All of this unnecessary work is driving Tyler crazy, but he continues to do the work despite all of the insane requests. We then cut to Tyler emptying and loading laugh canisters onto a cart, and in the background Duncan is yelling at him to pick up the pace while sitting in a lounge chair drinking a beverage. As Duncan starts up his radio and begins to rock out, Tyler walks over to Cutter, who says to him, "Back onto canister duty, huh? Glad I'm not you. It'll drive a monster crazy." Tyler then replies saying, "I'll tell you who's crazy. Duncan is crazy with power." Just then, Cutter gives Tyler an idea to launch a canister towards Duncan to catch him off guard, and Tyler does just that, and the canister knocks Duncan to the floor. Tyler sarcastically says out loud, "I'm sorry, did I do that? Oops, I guess I need a better supervisor." To which Duncan replies, "Oh, I'll supervise you." As Duncan attempts to get back at the two by releasing a canister, it malfunctions and takes off backwards, with Duncan still holding onto it. The canister then bumps into all the other ones stacked up in the room, causing them all to fall over and release the laughs inside of them. Duncan and Tyler take cover, and Duncan turns to Tyler and says, "This is all of your fault." Just then, the cart full of canisters that the two had been sitting on blasts off out of the room, and the two are sent down a long hallway at high and uncontrollable speed. They then crash into a huge power unit which sparks and then completely goes out. We then cut to various parts of the factory, and the employees are shocked by the power outage. We then see Mike and Sully, who are on the laugh floor. Sully is very concerned, and Mike tells him to relax and that it is probably nothing. Just then, Celia approaches the two monsters with her clipboard and tells them that the power for the city is completely out and that Merc is on the phone. Merc standing for Monstropolis Energy Regulatory Commission. Celia reveals that Merc will be sending out an investigator to the factory. We then cut to the front of the factory where the mysterious Merc investigator has just arrived. He is a long, thin monster with tentacles, glasses, and has a silver briefcase in hand. As he makes his way through the room, Sully whispers to Mike, "Oh no, not him. That's Argus Blinks. He hasn't taken a day off in 20 years. If he finds a problem, he will shut us down for sure." As Argus approaches the two friends, he introduces himself and tells them that he is going to explore the blackout, and he will either shut down the factory or change the management in control. Mike and Sully tell him that he has their complete cooperation. Mike then hands him a clipboard with money attached to it, which prompts Argus to ask what the money is for. Mike tells him with a chuckle, "Oh, it's my lunch money, or it could be your lunch money." Argus is completely caught off guard and asks, "Are you trying to bribe me?" Sully tells Mike to put the money away. Mike then tries again to bribe the Merc worker with a couple of tickets to a game. Argus is uninterested and asks to see the two's office, and the monsters comply and begin to lead him there. As they start to pass through the hallways, Needleman and Smitty are there with a shiny new orange sports car. Needleman begins to tell Argus in his high-pitched voice, "Mr. Wazowski wants us to bribe you with this brand new..." He stops mid-sentence because he is cut off by Mike, who whispers to the boys, "Not now." We then cut to Tyler and some of the other Mifters who have no idea that the power to the city is out. As Tyler is pulling crashed canisters out of the wall, Val comes rushing into the room and tells them all about the power outage and that an investigator is on the way. They begin bickering about whose fault it is that the power is out. Scared that they are all going to lose their jobs, Duncan suggests to the group that they must hide all the evidence. And Val isn't pleased with this idea, and she says, "Duncan, it sounds like you are suggesting a cover-up." Duncan yells, No, not a cover-up, just a thing where we all conspire to avoid accountability for our actions." Cutter replies, "So, a cover-up." Duncan nervously laughs, No, not a cover-up. Why is this concept so hard for you guys to grasp?" We then cut to Mike and Sully's office. Argus opens his suitcase, which reveals a bunch of spare eyes. Mike and Sully begin to shudder, and Mike turns to Sully and says, "That's disturbing, and that's coming from a guy who's almost 100% eye." Argus explains that the eyes are highly trained inspection orbs, and that they will seek out what the cause of the power outage is. This part was kind of creepy because then the eyes begin to roll across the room on their own, and each enter into a pipe, which takes each eye to a different part of the factory to investigate. We then see one of the orbs stop mid-pipe and see the Mifters, who are all still talking about a cover-up. Duncan tells Tyler to get back to work, to which Tyler replies, "Okay, but once I'm done covering it up, this cover-up is complete," which makes Duncan furious, who begins yelling again that this isn't a cover-up. And just then, the orb begins to take off. We then are back in Mike and Sully's office, and the orbs seem to be reporting back to Argus one by one. None seem to have information except for the very last one, who reveals that the Mifters are the ones who are responsible for the outage. We then see Argus with the Mifters, and he begins to tell them that they are in violation of the Merc Code and that Duncan is responsible for his team since he is the team supervisor. He then goes on to suggest that he should be fired or banished, which crushes Duncan. Tyler tells Argus to give him a break due to the fact that this is his first day as supervisor. Just then, Argus is struck on the top of his head by a canister that had been left in the ceiling. Cutter moves in a little closer and says out loud, "Oh well, I'll just log him into my accident journal." Duncan then turns to Tyler and Val and tells them they need to get rid of the body. He quickly then walks it back and says, check his pulse." Argus moans, indicating that he is still alive but unconscious, and the monsters decide to hide him in the same vacation door that Fritz went through. As Tyler and Duncan attempt to pick him up, they discover his body is all slimy and hard to hold on to. The both of them are disgusted and quickly see to it that he is put on the other side of the door. They then quickly realize that they are being watched by Argus's orbs. Tyler attempts to close the case, but the eyes escape and begin rolling all over the room. The monsters try and catch the eyes using various different tools, and eventually they succeed. Cutter then kindly reminds the group that Fritz is still behind the vacation door, and Duncan tells her not to worry because Fritz is gone for another 2 weeks, and that he will figure out what to say by then. When 2 weeks are finally up, Cutter asks again if they have figured something out, and it seems that the Mifters have not even left the room. As Cutter opens the vacation door, Argus is the first one through, and his appearance is completely different. He not only has a sunburn, but has a green Hawaiian shirt and a drink in hand. He tells the Mifters that he had the best vacation of his life. We then see Fritz come through the door and approach him and say, "Yeah, you really needed to unwind, Argus." Argus. Tyler then proceeds to ask, "So are you okay, Argus?" To which he replies, "I am more than okay." Mike and Sully then enter the room and ask why Argus is still there. He tells them that he took time off and that he has the company MIF crew to thank for it. As Tyler tries to cut him off, Argus proceeds to explain that he is going to continue to write everyone up, but that it will just be a warning this time. When Argus leaves, Mike and Sully turn to the MIF crew and begin to express their disappointment. Fritz is shocked by the whole entire situation and turns to Duncan and asks, "Is all of this true?" Duncan sighs and replies, "Yes, sir." Just as Duncan is about to take the rap for everything, each of the Mifters begin to confess their role in the temporary power outage. Tyler even asks Mike and Sully to punish him instead of Duncan. Honestly, this moment is probably one of the most crucial to the Monsters at Work storyline because we truly see the Mifters come together as a team. They stick up for one another and are each willing to lose their own job in order to protect another's. Fritz then rejoices and hugs both Tyler and Duncan. He tells them how he is proud of each of them for working together and asks Mike and Sully to reconsider any punishment. Mike and Sully agree and then begin to fixate on getting rid of the vacation door. Mike tells Sully not to worry about it and that he is going to get it shredded. Just then, Needleman and Smitty enter and reveal to the whole room that they have dropped off the vacation door to Mike's office like he had asked. Mike chuckles nervously as he has been caught red-handed. In my opinion, this was a very important episode because it really brought all the Mifters together, but more importantly, it brought together Tyler and Duncan. I think from here on out, Tyler will start to see being amongst the Mifters as more of a permanent position at the company, but let me know what you all think down in the comments. As always, thanks for being my guest here at Disney Daily. Until next time.